Every neighborhood has a heartbeat, a place that represents the cultural epicenter of the area at its core. In Boston's historic North End, that place is Boston Barber and Tattoo Company. Boston Barber and Tattoo Company has become home to A-list Boston celebrities like Gordon Hayward, Milan Lucic, Brad Marchand, and Aaron Baines. Boston Barber and Tattoo is more than just Boston's most well-known corner barbershop. It's also a tourist attraction for the hundreds and thousands of people that visit the North End throughout the year. Boston Barber and Tattoo, a North End landmark that represents the cultural epicenter of the area at its core, located at 113 Salem Street.
This is Jeff Goodman. It's time for another edition of the Good and Plenty podcast on the CLNS Media Network. Today we have none other than Fox Sports' Doug Gottlieb. And Doug is the perfect person to bring on because, well, he could talk NBA, he could talk college hoops, and we'll hit on him with the Anthony Davis trade demand. We'll also talk about the contenders and the pretenders when it comes to cutting down the nets in Minneapolis come April. Today's show is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Get your new wireless plan and free shipping on the SIM card for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/podcast. Today's show also brought to you by 1-800. Want to buy tickets at an affordable price? Just log in to 1in100.co. And remember to subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher. Leave us a rating, leave us a review, give us your feedback. We love that. It's how we get better at what we do. Also, remember, we have two shows every week, every Tuesday, every Thursday. Last week, I hit on Villanova coach Jay Wright. We talked for a while about everything, parenting advice, how he turned this team around, Javon Quinterly, so you can check that out. Finally, follow me on Twitter at Goodman Hoops, and check me out on Stadium at watchstadium.com. Now, pleased to be joined by Doug Gottlieb, my friend, who is down in Atlanta. What do you do with the Super Bowl? I mean, like, do you actually work down there? You're in your hotel room right now hanging out. Do you work?
I have a radio show. It's a national radio show on over 250 stations. Yeah. Right now I'm working on watching Notre Dame play Duke.
Yeah, that one's ugly already.
Can I talk about Notre Dame for a second?
You can. You can absolutely. You have the floor to talk about Notre Dame.
Okay, so this is interesting. So, I think the ACC thing is not going to end up being very beneficial for them in basketball-wise. Just don't. They're not in New York enough as Zion hits a three-point shot. Looks decent shooting it. Doesn't look great, but looks decent.
Okay. Shooting it. Better than we thought, but still not great.
It's almost exactly what I thought. Like, I didn't think he'd not be able to shoot, but it doesn't. It's not. But a lot of these guys don't come in the league as great shooters. But there's some, considering how good an athlete he is, he looks a little uncomfortable shooting the ball from deep. But anyway, so look, when I went to, what I liked about Notre Dame when I went there and we were in the Big East was we weren't like most of the schools in the Big East. Right? We had a chance to be like kind of like a Stanford of the Big East, where you could have, the best of some, the best elite athletes that were academic minded. And, we're about, if you get 4-year players, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the second John McLeod got fired, they let him take transfers. Matt Doherty took Ryan Humphreys, and that obviously, changed their trajectory dramatically because no one was allowed to take a transfer previously. And when we joined the Big East, people wanted to transfer in, and they wouldn't let them. So that part is good. The academics are still strong. But remember, now you're in a league where you're not best or the second best, and you might not even be the third best academic-minded sports school in your league.
Well, what are the better academic? What are Duke?
Well, I mean, Duke and Virginia.
Yeah. True.
And frankly, North Carolina. But North Carolina recruits. You're not recruiting the kids at Notre Dame. You're recruiting at North Carolina. there's those three. I'm trying to think who else.
I mean, Boston, like BC, isn't far off.
Boston, right?
You know,
right. So yeah. So what differentiates you? What differentiates when you played against what they always I thought benefited from was you play city schools, small Jesuit schools like Seton Hall and Providence, and even St. John's, since they've kind of lost their juice or whatever. And your Notre Dame, like they're all playing kind of zone. They got all kids from the city, and you got kids that are 4-year kids. That again, it's like the Stanford of that league.
Yep.
And I don't know if I just know if there's enough differentiation. Even though Mike's had an incredible run of success,
yes,
it's really, really remarkable what he's done there. But I kind of think that the league thing is very underrated. We don't talk enough about it. When you and I have been on TV on various national networks, no one really cares about it, right? We talk about Player of the Year.
It's like inside baseball. Yeah, it's inside baseball
right.
for them.
Right, but I do think that inside basketball leagues matter, right? So who comes to your school? Well, kids usually like to go somewhere close.
Yep.
Even now, Notre Dame has always recruited nationally, and they recruit, real Eastern Seaboard, Jersey, Philly, West Coast. Obviously, the kid Pfluger's from Mater Dei, and I think it's interesting that the benefits they used to have from being in the Big East, even though the ACC is a far and away better conference than the current Big East, and honestly better than the old Big East was. Dude, you got the best of it, right? You got Syracuse and Louisville, and then you had Virginia and North Carolina, and dude, it's an incredible league. Yeah, I kind of fear that they get caught up a little bit in the wash, in that they're never going to get the top end kids that Duke and Carolina gets. And by the way, Carolina's recruiting more 4-year kids now, and then the academic kids now they're not going to get the Virginia's kids, and so you're fighting with next tier down. And honestly, they're benefiting right now from Stanford. Oh, and then there's Northwestern, obviously, that's recruiting kind of a similar caliber of athlete. That
Chris
I think
Collins,
them as well.
Yeah, and Chris
right,
is able to do it
in the same area, and Marquette.
Yeah.
Like I saw the Hauser boys play. Like those kids look like those kids should be
Notre Dame. They're white. They're white and they're skilled.
They're white. They're skilled. They're tough. They're smart.
Yeah.
They're winners. They're great. So look, I think it hurts Wisconsin obviously that they lost the Hauser boys, but I think Notre Dame it's going to be an interesting next 3 or 4 years for them.
No, I'm with you. Another school, and I don't want to go too much into this. I want to hit on some bigger hot button topics, but like a Pittsburgh is another school that you would say like has been crushed by realignment and going from the Big East to the ACC, just don't belong. We should do that at some point and go with like the 5 schools that just don't belong in their leagues at this point and have been crushed by it. But all right, I want to bounce around a little bit. I want to do some NBA. I want to do some college. We got about 40 minutes, so I don't want to bore too many people with realignment talk and Notre Dame talk since they're not really relevant this year. Let's start with Anthony Davis. And this was not a surprise by any means that he finally, through his new agent, Rich Paul, requested a trade for New Orleans. I actually thought it was funny. Last year, in April, I sent out a tweet. They had just swept Portland in the playoffs and then been knocked out. And I sent out a tweet saying that, like, I don't remember why, but, Jaylen Brown and a couple picks. What Celtics fans, what would you put out there for Anthony Davis? And all the New Orleans fans came back at me hard, like, they're never trading Anthony Davis. And I'm like, here's the problem. You just set the expectations high because you swept Portland, and you're not going to be able to live up to this. You're not going to be that good next year because your talent level suggests that you overachieved. That kind of happened. I think it was not the worst thing because it might not have mattered. Now with Rich Paul, it might not have mattered. He, whatever they were doing this year, he might have still requested a trade out of there. I don't think there's anywhere he goes other than L.A. I think it's L.A. at this point, and Magic's going to make a move no matter what.
Well, I think that's generally the plan. I think that's why. Look, these things only come out when somebody wants it to come out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And my guess is this is a power play from Clutch Sports. That's who had to leak this. Because obviously there was talk a couple weeks ago about it, and it got out, and I think they were trying to get the bids up a little bit higher. But I also don't. I think it's really interesting. I think Anthony Davis is great. I think he's a terrific player. You know what he's not worth? He's not worth 4 starters. He's just not.
Well, it depends who the 4 starters are. I mean, those aren't 4 high-level starters right now in L.A. either. They're not like all-star caliber guys.
How do you build a sustainable winner in the NBA? Right? You got to have some homegrown guys on rookie deals, and then you got to have a couple of stars to go with it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, one of the homegrown guys become a star. And this idea that, all right, you're going to get Brandon Ingram, who, again, I don't think is a great player, but he's only 21. He's averaging about 16.5 points per game. He's a 17 a game, right? He's a
solid piece.
He's a
solid.
good and solid NBA player.
Yes.
I think I still believe Zoe has more upside.
Me too. I'm with you 1,000% on Lonzo.
Right. And I think what people we look at so many of the wrong things as fans. We look at, point totals and field goal percentage and whatever. Like, look, first of all, he's unique. And he's unique in a good way. Plays both ends of the floor. He's a tremendous defensive player. On the ball, he's gotten better. Off the ball, he's very good. He's a good rebounder. Now, look, I don't love traditionally point guards. You don't need to rebound. But in this NBA, as spread out as it is, when you have another guy who can track rebounds and then initiate the fast break, and he's already the best advanced passer in the NBA.
Yep.
So these dudes love when he gets it and just throwing up and go. And he's never had an NBA offseason. So he's going to get
He's always
the
hurt.
monster no bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna get well, first year you don't really have time, and then last year he was hurt.
Yeah.
And look at the improvement from year 1 to year 2. It's remarkable, really remarkable. So look, I think he's got more upside than Brandon Ingram. And you and I have seen him in big moments in college basketball, where he's in high school. He's not scared of big moments.
Nope.
So does he have some confidence issues at times? Yes. Is his shot, still funky and continues to need to be worked through? Absolutely. But you're not giving up 2 legit NBA starters. And then you go along with Kyle Kuzma is a 20-game guy. Now, is he an all-star? Maybe not.
No, he's not an all-star. He's not an all-star, though.
Okay. Not yet.
I don't think he's ever going to be an all-star.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
I think he's a good player. Again, I think he's a good player. I would trade 3 of the 4 of those guys.
And then Zubac ain't bad, dude.
Nope.
Zubac is all right.
To me, I'd say take 3 of the 4. Take any 3 you want of the 4. We'll take Davis. We got LeBron. This year's a little bit of a wash. We're not going to win. We're not going to win it all this year, but get LeBron back with Davis. People will be excited the second half of the year, and then you're going to sign another big boy. You're going to get another big boy to play with those 2.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would, if it was me, I would try and say, hey, we'll give you the KCP expiring deal.
Yeah.
A first and the other 2. But I wouldn't, if I have to include, Kuzma, then I wouldn't give you the KCP deal, because I'd hold that so I could have the cap space. I need to have some sort of expiring deal to get that extra guy. But I think it'd be fascinating. Do I think he ends up anywhere else? I don't, because I think the Celtics are going to go on a run, and the Celtics are somebody who are going to convince themselves, hey, we're good. We just need to get another year together. We keep moving pieces and we lose cohesion.
Well, and they need Hayward. They need a healthy Hayward next year. I mean,
that contract's untradeable right now, right?
Untradeable, completely. So you got to live with it right now. I mean, the only thing you're doing, and the Celtics aren't gonna roll the dice on Anthony Davis. No team is, to give up a ton, thinking that you're probably not going to keep. I mean, I guess a small market team would, but they're not going to trade him to another small market team. I mean, it's going to be a probably a big boy team, if anybody other than the Lakers, that's able to get him. And again, I just don't see Danny Ainge saying to himself, even in July, at that point, I'm going to give up Jaylen Brown, a couple picks, and Horford to make the money work for Anthony Davis for what could be a one-year rental, because ultimately Rich Paul wants him and will be able to convince him that he should go to L.A.
I totally agree with you. But the idea that came out today when we're recording this podcast, and it came out today when we recorded this podcast, and then the Celtics cannot currently trade for him because he has, that Rose deal.
Right.
I think is only points to Rich Paul and his crew leaking it out there, because they're probably a little frustrated at the pace of how the Lakers are doing business.
Sure, they want to put pressure on him to do it now. Listen, LeBron wants a chance this year. He doesn't want this year to be a throwaway.
I know more than just Miles Simon's my best friend, that organization. I know a bunch of people in that organization. And to a man, there's a belief there that they're the second best team in the West, and they think, hey, we can guard him. We just need, if we got Anthony, if we got another shooter, we can win some games off them. And if they have any sort of injury to their top line guys, they're not close to the same. The bench isn't the same. They're not the same defensively. Cousins right now, they got to figure out how they play with the big guy. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, well, I saw him the other night against Boston, and DeMarcus looked pretty good. Now again, he's out of shape, but he just gives them. I was talking to Draymond a little bit and KD and those guys stuff, and Draymond said, it could be scary once they figure it out, if they figure it out with DeMarcus. And, he's not near in condition, but the good thing for him is, you're talking about a big who's not a super athletic dude anyway, so it's not like Gordon Hayward, right? Gordon Hayward going up against athletic wings is getting exposed right now, and I feel bad saying this because I love Gordon Hayward, but as one Golden State player told me, he is a kind of a liability right now on both ends of the court. It's a fact right now. Not to his fault. Yeah. He's just not back, and he's not going to be himself probably until next year. So what do you do with him if you're Brad Stevens? You're trying to keep him involved, trying to bring him off the bench, see if maybe he'll progress. But the hard part is too, Doug, it's not like he's on a team where he gets force-fed and can get his confidence back and maybe some of that burst back a little bit quicker. That's just not his role on this team right now.
Yeah, well, what Brad told me, and if you watched early in the year, they were trying to make him more kind of a facilitator because they couldn't get Kyrie to pass. And now all of a sudden Kyrie's decided, okay, now I'm going to do both. I'm going to score, I'm going to pass. And so he hasn't, he's not really needed. But I do think we also, and I'm as guilty of this as you are, which is we take a snapshot of it now and we say that's what it's going to be like in May. May is a long way away.
Yeah.
Now, can he rehab and become completely the all-star he was before he got hurt in May? Probably not. But it's only January. You got February, you got March, you got April. That's legit 3 months to get your game together. I think he'll be much, and with every month, he'll get better, he'll get more comfortable, he'll get his legs under him, especially now as Kyrie is kind of taking over this thing.
Can I tell you, though, that the Celtics were so much more fun to watch in the playoffs last year than they are with this year's team and with Kyrie. And I hate to say it, but it's true. Kyrie, you just don't know which Kyrie you're going to get. Sometimes it's a Kyrie of pound the ball, everybody stands around. Last year they were running more. They were more fun. Maybe it's just because they were young and we wanted to see those guys. Jaylen Brown, when you put him in transition, is terrific. When you throw him in the half court, he's ordinary at best.
Yeah, well, of course. He's an extraordinary athlete. He shot the ball way better early in his career than we thought he would.
Way better.
And now kind of waters down his level. And they, when they trying to play Hayward hurt his minutes, Tatum's emergence hurt him. Obviously, as you pointed out, Kyrie hurt him in that Kyrie, needs the ball, and Jalen, Kyrie's not an advanced passer, right? That's not what he does.
No.
So, yeah, there's some mixed match pieces there. Look, I also think that part of the missing discussion is not only they overachieved last year, but you do get a little bit lucky, right? I mean, even the year before, it was a little fool's gold. They got the Eastern Conference Finals with Isaiah Thomas.
No doubt.
Rondo got hurt, so otherwise they were down 2 games to none to the Chicago Bulls. Last year, didn't they go 7 with Milwaukee?
Yep.
Like they lose Milwaukee in the first round. We're not having any of these conversations about these guys. None. 0. So, and Jason Tatum, now people have kind of figured him out, and he's a good player. But you look and well, remember last year? How many averaged last year? Like 14 points. That's it. 14 points. So he was great in the playoffs, and I think he's going to get better. But if you thought he would take this massive jump in year 2, remember, some of it's about volume of shots, volume of touches. And I would agree they were fun to watch, but they weren't fun when they were missing all those shots and they had the lead in Game 7 against the Cavs, were they?
Yeah, they're not winning at all. Right. You're not winning at all without Kyrie.
We forgot how bad the East was last year, and about how it's much improved this year. Toronto's better. Milwaukee's better. I don't think Philadelphia's better. I think the Celtics have more talent. They don't always play better, but they do have more. They have more talent. Maybe not as much cohesion. So you got those 3 teams. Somebody else I'm missing here. Toronto. Those are the 4 teams.
Indiana, but now with Oladipo out, you can't put Indiana in that equation. Obviously, they're going to fall off.
Right. But I think those other 2, Toronto and Milwaukee, are substantially better than they were last year.
Yeah, I think those 4. You're going to talk Toronto, Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, are going to be the clear-cut number 4 now. Indiana's going to fall off into, 5, 6. Brooklyn's been great. Quick break to tell you today's show is brought to you by 1 in 100. I'll be honest with you, even I had to look up 1 in 100. So what is it? Let's say you want to go to the big game. Patriots-Rams, take 2. But tickets on the secondary market can get extremely expensive. Want a more affordable way to get to the game? Give 1 in 100 a shot. All you do is log in to 1in100.co. That's 1 in the number 100.co. Click the game you want to go to and buy a raffle ticket for your chance to wear a pair of tickets. The price of the raffle ticket is just 1/100th of the price of what 1 in 100 paid for the ticket. Still confused? Let's say 1 in 100 paid $1,000 for the pair. Your cost for the raffle ticket, $10. Only 100 people get to buy a raffle ticket, so you have 1 in 100 chance to win the tickets. It's that simple. This is the newest way to buy tickets to sporting events. The cost to potentially score some tickets is a small fraction of the actual ticket price. Score a pair of tickets for less than the cost of a beer. Your first raffle ticket is free after signing up. All you got to do is log in to 1in100.co. Feeling lucky? Give it a shot today. All right, let's switch gears. Let's go a little college. And the Kentucky Wildcats, I don't know who you picked in the preseason to win it all. I picked Kentucky, and then, right when the season started, I said, please, God, can I have my pick over again? Because they were completely embarrassed against Duke at the Champions Classic. But I've found myself believing in this Kentucky team again. I like the way they fit together, Doug. As long as Tyler Hero's making shots, I think they can beat anybody. And I know people would say, and I do. I don't want to see him go up against Duke again, but I do, because I think it would be a fascinating matchup if they met again in the Final Four of the national title game.
Of course, it would be. Duke, Kentucky, after how they got humiliated, it would be. It would be a lot like when Villanova, got crushed by Oklahoma, right? Yeah, and then they beat Oklahoma by. They're not going to beat Duke by 44.
Right.
But it would show the improvement. They had they were playing the wrong point guard. They couldn't make shots. Tyler Hero was playing hero ball and playing no defense. They didn't know how to use Reed Travis. I saw that game because Reed Travis had experience. You just throw it inside, play inside out the entire time. but they didn't. So, and I'm not sure that I don't want to say that Cal wanted to lose that game, but once it started to get away from him, I don't think he made any adjustments just so he could use it as a great teaching tool, for his young team. So I like the team as well. Anytime you're that good defensively at the point guard position, that changes. You throw in Hero and Keldon Johnson, and Reed Travis. You got enough scoring in college basketball. I think they have enough shooting. I'm not convinced. I do think that that you can stretch Reed Travis out. You can chase him off the floor. That changes them as well. Makes them maybe a little bit better defensively, but not as good offensively. But I'm with you. I think they're one of the 7 or 8 teams you could see win it.
All right, I'm going to run them down. You tell me yes or no if they can win it all. 6 straight games. Duke, we agree. Yes.
Yes.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, are you familiar with the Rick Barnes factor?
Am I familiar with what?
The Rick Barnes factor.
Which factor would that be?
I don't think he gets tight. I don't think he's not like sphincter tight dude, but he had the one Final Four run with T.J. Ford.
Yeah, long time.
But, but his teams have a tendency. They just can get a little ugly offensively at times. They play really hard. They defend. Obviously Grant Williams and what he did the other night against Vanderbilt. That was amazing. He's a monster. They're weight room monster, but then they take some bad shot. Bone took a really bad untimely 3 in that game. He's not an X and O. Not that Krzyzewski has to be or Calipari has to be as well. Sometimes the winning on defense and rebounding and toughness, and I don't know. I'm going to say yes because they've been really impressive, and they were a hell of a team last year. Like, they shouldn't be lost. They should have beaten Nevada, right? I mean, they had them down a bunch.
Yeah. So
I'll say yes.
I just worry about their guards, Doug. Like, I love Grant and Schofield, but like Bone, Turner, Bowden, like they're solid, but I don't know if they're good enough to win 6 straight. So I'm kind of with you.
I would agree. They're also. This is like this is a big thing. So many teams that have had early success have guys that are back and they played together. I was talking with my brother before you called, and he was talking about Washington. He's like, look at all their guys. Yeah. They have all returners.
They're all back.
And what's crazy about it is, like, a lot of those seniors, those are the guys that got Romar fired.
Yeah.
But, you stay, you buy in, a new system, you get new life. You've all played together, you get bigger, you get stronger, and you're playing against kids or guys that haven't been in those situations before and you know how to handle it. And so I do think Tennessee has, and some of these teams have that benefit.
All right, so we got Duke, Virginia, Tennessee, Gonzaga, yes. Michigan, you all in on Michigan?
I like Michigan. They have, I actually really like them. I don't know. They have some scoring limitations this year as opposed to last year, because Wagner could shoot the 3. I mean, could really shoot. He could really shoot the 3. They still make threes from the center position, but not nearly as much. I also think they're incredible defensively.
Yeah.
But I think Bryce Dacus he's going to get better. The one game I saw him in person was against Wisconsin. He stunk.
He was terrible.
Yeah. They're a little bit too much of a mid-range shooting team, which is weird for his teams, right?
Yeah, well, they don't have. I mean, Poole is their one guy who can really stroke it.
Yeah, and Simpson scores because people don't guard him.
He's a non-shooter.
And Teskey's really good. Teskey's really good defensively at the rim. He's a good shot blocker. They're just different.
Yeah.
But I do think there's going to be times in which they're going to struggle to score when you have non-score at the point and non-score at center. That could be a little dicey. So I'm going to say no for Michigan.
All right, I'm torn on Michigan. I'm not all the way there either because I hate having a point guard who's a non-scoring threat. I just feel like somebody will expose that in the NCAA tournament, and Teskey's not a huge scoring threat either. So I think at times you're playing 3-on-5 out there. which
correct
is tough
correct.
to win.
Right. I mean, yes, you can. I mean, you can junk it up. They're so well coached that they do know how to take it. If you go under every screen or whatever, they do know how to take advantage of it. I mean, I would think about if I had a long 4-man, I would probably think about putting him on. You know, if I wanted to screw up my lineups, I would put a big on Xavier Simpson and sag off and make him shoot over a long hand. Like Simpson's been left wide open so much, he actually makes his shots now when he's wide open. But his problem is when he drives in there and you play a little defense, he's not used to it. He's used to people making him finish and making him make shots, and he's become decent at it. But I'd agree with you; those are two non-scorers. It's a hard one to bet.
Michigan State.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, if they get Josh Langford back, I'll say yes. And I know they've been great without him up until the loss at Purdue. I just think they need him. Like, the margin for error is too small without Josh Langford. So I think with Josh Langford and a healthy Josh Langford, they absolutely have a shot. Without him, I don't see them winning 6 straight.
I'm going to change my vote with Michigan. I'm going to put Michigan as yes. They could do it.
Okay. So you got 6 so far. Does Kentucky make 7?
Yeah.
Okay. So we agree for the most part, and they are the top 7 teams in the country. No surprise there. Give me another team, because I think everybody thinks those are your 7 right now. Give me another team that deserves to be in that group.
Deserves.
Or you would put it 8.
I mean, Nevada's right there in the AP rankings. I don't know what I think they're like an 8 or 9.
Yeah, they're 8.
I think Nevada's pretty good. I can't explain what was happening early in Missouri, Mountain West play, where they lost. They got blown out by New Mexico, and there's playing close games.
Boise, they almost lose to Boise.
Yeah, I can't explain that. But I mean, they don't shoot it that well is one of the big problems, right? I mean,
that's right.
They don't. Cody's shooting like 22% from 3. Caleb's shooting a better percentage, like 33, but he shoots a lot. But I mean, Jordan Caroline is a load to handle in college basketball. It's just a load. And Jazz Johnson is the guy that can come in and make shots. And they're grown men. You know, they start like 3 or 4 dudes that are 23 years old. So, I mean, you know, Trey Porter is a freak. Trey Porter doesn't really score that well. He's averaging like 7 a game. But he's playing 18 minutes a game.
So talented.
He plays normal minutes. Yeah, he's very, very talented.
He looks the part.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Yep.
My team.
Nevada's a team that I would. Go ahead.
Here's my team. Iowa State.
Okay.
I just think if Wigginton gets back to, and he hasn't. I mean, he's been back probably, I don't know how many games he played, 8 something like that games so far.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, man, like, they've got a lot of what you need overall. You know, they got point guards, they got scorers, they got older dudes, they got good young players, they got poise, they got a coach who I think is underrated, and I didn't think, man, I did not think Steve Prohm would be able to do this at Iowa State. Honestly, I really thought he'd be in trouble. Like, once all those dudes left from the George Niang kind of group, I was like, I don't know if he's going to be able to recruit at Iowa State again. I mean, that's a tough job.
It's a tough job. My thing is that they don't have much size inside at all, right? Nope. And they also, you know, even when Wigginton is back healthy, and he was bad against Kansas, they have a lot. They have, you know, they're going to play Taylor Horton Tucker or Tyrese Halliburton. They're playing a couple of true freshmen, and you know, those kids have a bit too much self-confidence. And then even Wigginton, he's a bit of a shot nut at times. Like, he's not a. I like Shaq, and I like his versatility. I liked him when he was in Virginia. And obviously now, playing a much more wide open system, he's shown his ability to score. I like them a lot. I don't think they're good enough defensively or on the interior to win 6 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, listen, somebody this year, we know, like, 6 in a row is tough. 4 in a row, you're going to get another team in there winning 4 in a row that's going to get to the Final Four that we're going to all shake our heads. May not be at Loyola level in terms of surprise, but there's going to be a team that gets in there. Whether it is an LSU with a really good point guard like Tremont Waters, whether it's I don't even know who it could be. I mean, you kind of look for it at this point. Mississippi State, they're talented, they're wild. I just think there's
if Jay Wright gets there with this team,
oh my God,
I will bow. I will kiss his feet.
Incredible.
And if they had Omari and they had Dante, okay, I mean that's a legit top 10 team, whatever. But I mean, the Big East's not great, but their culture is unbelievable. I mean, really unbelievable.
Give him one of those guys, Doug. Like even one of Dante or Omari, and you'd be like, all right, you know what, maybe. But everybody was.
I think Texas Tech has a chance. Obviously, they've hit a cold spell.
Just can't
I think
score.
I've seen North Carolina. I like them because they still haven't gotten everything out of Nasir Little, and Roy Williams seems to start playing defense. Once we get close to spring, so when they wouldn't stun me if they want a little bit of a run here. I like their team. I saw Marquette in person. You got 3 elite shooters on your team. So,
I like Marquette.
And then you have Theo Johns, a legit shot blocker, rim runner.
Are they tough enough, Doug? Is Marquette tough enough?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, Theo John makes them tough.
Yep.
The Hauser twins are tough.
Yeah.
Those are good. And you know what? Next year they get Kobe Ewing.
Yeah, Kobe McEwen.
Utah State.
Yeah.
Kobe McEwen is good. But you had that. You had what's he going to be? A 4th-year junior to that mix. I mean, I'm assuming Marcus doesn't go out just because I think he's a second-round pick no matter when he goes out. But if Marcus Howard comes back and they get Kobe McEwen, that's a great team. Great.
Yeah. No, they could be really good next year.
Yeah, I mean, look, could Marquette lose the first game? They could, but they're much better defensively than they've been. Wojo's unbelievable offensive coach in terms of the sets they run, the spacing. I don't love that they only have one ball handler. And if they face a team that really pressures and really climbs into them and just traps him every time he gets the ball, I think that would be their undoing.
The big in Big Wireless Provider stands for a lot of things. Big contracts, big bills, and big fees. What Big Wireless doesn't want you to know is there's a way to cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month. Introducing Mint Mobile, the game-changing company that's taken everything wrong with Big Wireless and made it right. Mint Mobile makes it so easy to cut your bill down to just $15 a month. You can even keep your old number along with all your existing contacts with any Mint Mobile plan. There's no more paying for unlimited data that you'll never use. And if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, plus free shipping on your Mint Mobile SIM card, go to mintmobile.com/podcast. That's mintmobile.com/podcast. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month and get free shipping on your Mint Mobile SIM card at mintmobile.com/podcast.
You think Wojo's the next coach at Duke?
That would make sense. That would probably make the most sense, right?
I think he is. I've been saying that for years. He just needed to win. Yeah, he needed to win enough. You know?
I mean, he's the most. I mean, look, here's my Wojo story. I have 2 Wojo stories. When I was in high school, when I was growing up, I always wanted to play Duke. Because Bobby Hurl's medal. I want to play Duke. They were on TV all the time. It was Duke. So they never recruited me, and then I blew up somewhere between my junior and senior year. And I'll never forget, Coach K told my dad, Bob, I'd recruit the hell out of your son. But I signed a Polish point guard last year, so he's got no shot of playing. Wojo was a year ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I mean, Wojo comes from kind of hardworking blue-collar family, which is a lot like K. I can't see it going any other way. As much as I thought Capel might be the guy, he wouldn't have left and taken a job if he knew he was the guy, right?
That's 100% right. Yeah, I just think, again, like, I think Chris Collins, his next step is like NBA if he hits it because of his dad's lineage. I mean, shoot, I could see him being with the Bulls now that Doug Collins is involved with the Bulls again. So it wouldn't shock me to see, like, Paxson and Gar Forman gone in a few years and Collins hits it again at Northwestern, which I think he'll do, and he hits the NBA. Like, I don't think Amaker wants any part of it. Bray isn't in the family. Who else we got? Again, Capel. You know, Capel kills it at Pittsburgh. Maybe it makes it difficult, but you always hear how close K and Wojo were and are. And I think this team, like you said, like, they go to a Final Four.
I'm just telling you this. They're a really well-coached offensive team. Now, does it help when you have shot makers? Yes. And, you know, he's recruited shot makers. And they couldn't guard anybody the last couple of years, and now they can't because of the personnel. But they run a lot of really good shit. And, you know, watching them, it's just fun. It's like, well, that's what I do. That's what, you know, he tries to score every out of bounds, sideline, whatever. Yeah. You know, he tries it, and he evolves, and he figures out different ways to use guys, and their players get better. You know, Theo John's a much better player this year than he was last year. Got a nice little jump hook. He couldn't do anything but dunk last year, and their bodies get better. So yeah, that would make a ton of sense.
St. John's. I'm gonna bounce around a little bit here.
That's a good one. Good. That's a good question. I was just talking. Okay, so I'm at the Super Bowl, but there's two people I used to work with that are huge St. John's guys. Okay, so Greg Giannotti, it's Geo and Boomer in the morning. It's from WFAN, right? Big St. John's guy, and so too is Ben Tierney, who does the color on the radio.
Sure.
And we're all, and at different times we had the same conversation. But I think you and I had this conversation. I had it on Fox with Casey Jacobson. I had it with Lavin, obviously. To start the year, we're like, who's the best team? Like, well, can Marquette guard anybody? And what happens when? By the way, I'm watching, and this is the moment when Zion Williamson just went up and caught a ball in the air instead of
ridiculous. He's such a freak.
This is like unfair. This is like varsity versus JV.
He plays so hard, Doug. Like, that's the part that I think is overlooked with Zion Williamson, is how damn hard he plays on both ends. So I'm in the process of doing something right now, and I spoke to 2 kids tonight who guarded him. I've talked to now 12 primary defenders. And the part that I love, along with all the other stuff, I asked every one of them at the end, I said, like, what do you think he's like as a kid? Like, how he acts? Does he talk shit? Any of that? Every single one of them is like, he plays hard. He doesn't trash talk at all. He doesn't talk shit at all. He's a good teammate. Like, he brings his other guys with him. He's cheering on his other guys as much as he's cheering himself. Like, I love that. That part of him, to me, is overlooked among all the other freakish things that he does.
Yeah. Well, it just gets overlooked by people who just watch highlights, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And they assume they know a kid. Okay, where were we before? Oh,
St. John's.
I mean, look, I know you've been on him for a long time about the way Ali allows his assistants, or one assistant in particular, to coach,
yes.
and he CEOs it. But one, that's an NBA mentality a little bit, and two, it was all working. My issue with St. John's was...
What do you mean it was working? Wait, go back. No, it's never worked yet. Where is it worked?
This year?
They beat 12 garbage teams. They went 12-0 against, like, not Georgetown. It wasn't Georgetown's non-conference schedule from a year ago, but it was pretty shitty.
Granted, but I mean, they got robbed. The Seton Hall game, they got robbed.
Oh, no doubt. Yes, agreed.
Okay. TCU is a good win, isn't it? I mean, when you only beat Cal by 3, that shows you're not very good. But whatever. I meant it was more working this year. It seemed to be
better.
It seemed to be working better.
Yes.
And they had better players, and they have hybrid players. They could run some of that stuff, and then they have Shamari's incredible, just going and getting his own buckets.
Love him.
But I want to know what would happen the first time they lost a couple games for us.
Yeah.
So they lose that Seton Hall game, and people forget they went and they bounced back, and they had a great game plan against Marquette. I mean, they were
smacked them.
They just have too many. That's my issue with Marquette is you come upon a team with athletes that can switch and put length on him, on Marcus.
Yeah.
And they don't have anybody else who can create a shot for themselves. So then they beat Georgetown, and then all right, you lose at Villanova, that happens. But once they lost 2 in a row to DePaul, that was what I really wanted to see. What would happen when they lost 2 in a row? And now they've lost 4 on 5, and I'm with you now. And of course now they have Creighton and Duke and Marquette back to back on the road, right? Like
yeah, and then it doesn't get that easy after that.
They smacked Creighton at home a couple weeks ago because Creighton's better, but they're still just banged. They're just really banged up. They
better win that one.
Yeah, you better win that one because I don't think you win the other 2.
No, and you don't win those 2, and you go in, losing 5 straight at home against Providence and Butler and Villanova. You better win. All I'm saying is you better get this thing going because if you don't get to the NCAA tournament in year 4 with this roster, Doug, I don't know. I mean, again, it's not going to get better when Shamari Pons leaves. I know they're getting a bunch of transfers, but I don't see it getting better.
Yeah.
I just, again, listen.
Well, so what do you know? They're going to be terrible next year. They lose everybody, right?
Well, they'll get they got kids sitting out, I'm sure. But, my whole deal with this is, and again, not every guy, because Penny Hardaway's been a little bit different, right, than Ewing and Mullen. Like, I just don't know how invested, like, Ewing and Mullen are into the recruiting game.
I will tell you this about Ewing. I don't know how much time you spent around him. I've done 2 of his games.
Yep.
I was really impressed.
With what?
I was really his investment in the details of the game.
Okay.
I don't know. Again, I don't know about the recruiting. You'd have to ask other kids that recruit. And the thing, the important thing.
I'm glad I'm giving you a nap. I'm glad I'm giving you a little bit of a nap tonight,
dude. I've had. Let me give you my schedule here, big boy.
Go ahead.
Okay. I like to take red eyes to be on the West Coast so I can spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
So I played in the Pro-Am, which is like an all-day thing, and then did my radio show at Torrey Pines, which is super fun.
Okay.
Come home. I got my own basketball academy, and I got 3 hours of practice. Next day, radio show, and then SC Arizona. That was a bloodbath.
Oh.
Then I did Cowherd show. Then I took a red eye and did Xavier Marquette. Come home. I got a day at home, but it took me forever to get home. But coached 3 basketball games. And then red eye here to Atlanta. Did my radio show, and now I'm talking with you. I yawned on your podcast.
Are you going to go to bed? Are you going to go to sleep early after this?
I was going to, but then I just got invited to sushi, and somebody else is paying.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Sushi and 10 minutes. Yeah. So, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. I don't. So I was in when I sat down and when I was at practice, and when I sat down, I talked to Pat Ewing. I just thought he was into it, and I actually think Mullen's more into it than you give him credit.
No, I like Mullen. I like Mullen. I wish he was more into it. Like, I wish when I saw a timeout, like, he showed some semblance of, like, wanting to draw up a play and not just acquiescing to Saint.
Okay, let me tell you something. I just had this conversation with another. I won't tell you his name because that'll give it away.
Okay. Another
player who played for a different Hall of Fame coach, and we were talking about how, and we coach now. We coach every detail, right? Like he was talking about how he's an assistant. He was talking about his head coach is like, we got in a game and we're up 3 and we hadn't even discussed or practiced like fouling up 3, and we're in the middle of the season. Like, you hadn't? I was like, we talked about that. He's like, I know, it's crazy. And so we were talking about how we had both coached tour teams, whatever, and about how at practice you do different you do different. What's it called? You know, like I have a. This is what we're going to run with more than 10 seconds. This is what we're going to run with more than 5 seconds. This is what we're going to run less than 5 seconds. You know, you draw up things. You have. I have inbounds plays, then I have counter inbounds plays for if it's only 1 second to go in the shot clock, so you can get a lob or a step out three. Right, like all these little details. And then he said to me, he's like, "Did Eddie Sutton ever drop a play?" Right? And I said, "Not one fucking time."
Really?
Not one time. And never.
Wow.
Sean Sutton drove the plays. Now, he was in every huddle, and he completely understood basketball. Like, he understood what impressed me about Coach was, like, he didn't put all this stuff in, but he
knew it all.
Yeah, and he also knew where the slightest adjustment. Hey, you stand here, this will open this up a little bit more. But he wasn't drawing the plays. Hell no. Old coaches, they don't draw plays.
It's amazing.
They don't.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, like Brad and those guys, you know, I mean, they're going to change the whole thing where these guys, that's the most fun. I never understood it. Hey, you got coaches, you know, Sean Miller doesn't even sub. His assistant, there's a bunch of programs where their assistants sub.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe. And they don't even tell the coach.
Right.
They're coaching and some guy runs in. Now, they talk about it beforehand and they have a working relationship and whatever, like, but somebody will sub in your players and gone off your plays. Let's say somebody's sleeping with your wife. What's the point? What's the point of being head coach?
It's amazing.
Other than the first team.
I don't know. Again, I just wanted to see Mullen be a little bit more, but that's just not him. And again, I spent some time with Chris. Listen, nobody was a bigger fan of Chris Mullen as a player than me. That was when I grew up watching him and Big East basketball. I hope St. John's becomes relevant because honestly, it's a drive for me. I can get there. If they're really good, there aren't many programs I can drive to right now that are any good, Doug. I mean, if you haven't noticed, like...
No, I mean, listen, UConn's got to get better.
Yep.
UConn's got to get back in the Big East.
Yep.
You know? I think what's happened at Wichita is really interesting. I know they lost a bunch, but I think, you know, what happens there is going to be super, super interesting.
Last thing before I let you go.
Yes.
We haven't had really any traction on UCLA lately. I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but, you know, Rick Pitino out of the equation now. Can't touch him.
I think Rick Pitino would be in the equation at St. John's, right, if that ever happened.
Yeah, UNLV, St. John's. I think those would be two that you'd look for him. What's your take at UCLA now? Do you think it's just kind of the name I mentioned, the day the job broke, the day he got fired, one of the names I put up there that I have not seen from anybody else, and it was speculation, was Luke Walton. If he got fired.
I thought that too, just the timing, if he gets fired.
Right. If he gets fired, which very well could happen, if they, you know, LeBron comes back, they don't win, it certainly gives him the out to be able to do it. Could you hire Luke Walton, an Arizona player, at UCLA because his father is arguably the greatest player ever to play at UCLA, or certainly one of them?
Yeah, I thought that name as well. You know, I don't know how that works for the Earl Watson crew. You know, who's right?
Do you think the Earl Watson crew? Does the Earl Watson crew have any juice anyway?
Well, I mean, like, look, he's got the AAU thing.
Yeah.
He's had the AAU thing forever. They are Under Armour tied, you know. So, yeah, a little bit more than you think. You know, a little more than you think.
Who do you think it's going to be? Like, is it Fred Hoiberg when it all shakes out?
I guess. I mean, that's what everybody has said, but I don't know. I'm actually having a dinner tonight where I'll have more intel for you.
All right, yeah.
I don't know when you're dropping. I don't know when you're dropping this thing, but I could definitely give you a little bit.
We can give you a 5
give you a little
minute.
Bit more.
We can give you a 5-minute edition in the morning if you need. If we need to jump on and add to it. But, yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know where it goes either, but I think Luke Walton is a very intriguing name that really hasn't been brought up. And largely, again, because you're speculating that he won't. You know, I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying, if something were to happen, I would look hard. I think Luke would be a really good connector with college kids. Really good. I don't know how much he'd love the recruiting. I know he did it for a few months under Josh Pastner at Memphis during the lockout. Again, kind of like Mullen and Ewing, I think he'd be better at it and probably work harder, but would he grind it like some of the guys you'd have to at UCLA? And it's the same thing with Hoiberg for me. Is he going to grind it enough? Not that you need to kill it at UCLA, but you got to work.
You definitely have to work. Look, you're going to hire the right guys. You're definitely going to have to work. No job. That's the one thing. That's one of the things that. It's one of the things that people underrate about Pitino and some of these guys.
Works.
Like these older coaches, like they get after him. And Roy Williams, you and I. I mean, Roy got really mad at me a couple years ago when I was on CBS, and I said, look, he's not showing the same energy he had forever. Right, and that was what everybody was saying, but it's because Roy Williams was always the most energetic recruiter. He'd sit there mid-court for the guys that he wanted, right?
He was insane.
And
yeah,
yes. Well, he had the whole thing wired. We set up his practice schedule where he practiced early, get on a plane, and then practice late the next day. So that he could never miss a day of practice, and then go see two kids and come back and be incredible. And
he was out every day in July, every day.
The LA thing is just different, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't know who the right hire is. I don't know if there is one that you're like, it's a home run. This is the guy you got to hire. I'm not sure there's that guy out there, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I think Musselman would do a really good job, but he. I heard when he was the Cal thing, he'd never take off the ground because the 2 DUIs for a long time ago.
Yeah, too much baggage. Although I'll give him credit. He's calmed down on the sideline a lot, Doug. Like I saw them play 3 games this season already, and he's mellowed completely. So
I don't think completely, but he's definitely
more.
He's arrived.
Yeah,
he's arrived. He's gotten the respect that he wanted.
Yeah. All right, go get your sushi. I will. That's way more important than the end of this podcast. So I appreciate you jumping on. Have fun at the Super Bowl, and we'll catch up soon.
Awesome, dude.
Thanks, man. Later.
Hey, sports fans. I'm Coach Nick of the B-Ball Breakdown podcast on the CLNS Media Network. I break down the NBA from a coach's perspective and have some of the best basketball minds join me weekly to discuss the latest NBA news and what's truly going on the court. Subscribe to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast wherever you get your podcasts or find us on clnsmedia.com. It's a great conversation. You in?